Johnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, and tonight is episode number 31. We're going to talk about audits, the audit process, and how to beat tax audits in Canada, because this guy here, Bob Hamilton, the Commissioner of the Canada Revenue Agency, is himself a criminal of the worst type, the cowardly type that uses paperwork to take decent human beings' homes and money away from them. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. I can crush your GST debts. Oh, I sue the Canada Revenue Agency and I win. I am your number one tax strategist, and let's do this. I get rid of all your served debts. I can absolutely crush your corporate income tax and destroy your personal income tax. Yeah, I can't wait to do it either. Oh, everyone, we got to dive right into this because we have a lot to cover. Just a quick thing here on real estate. There's a large number of my clients are coming to me now not knowing what to do with their properties. So there's been inheritances taking place now all over Canada. Obviously, people over the age of 80 are at high risk of dying, especially in Canada, with awful food, awful health care, and in general, just an awful society. So what should you do? Albert, if you owe over $48,000 in CERB, you get a hold of me, I'm going to get rid of that debt. That's what I do. So if you do inherit a home, or you inherit a bank account, gold, silver, stocks, bonds, whatever it might be, don't get a lawyer involved. They're going to take everything from you. Here's one of the problems with lawyers. When homes go into what they call probate, but it's not really probate, it's just a lawyer taking your money and sitting on it. The lawyer, for some reason, who's supposed to work for you, always calls the CRA and asks the CRA, hey, guys, we got some money from a dead person, and I think we got to give you some. How much would you like? That's what your lawyer does to you. Takes your money and gives it to them. Albert, if you tried, you got to use my website, kevinjjohnston.me. That's real funny. So the lawyers, somehow there always seems to be some slimy lawyer that becomes your probate lawyer, even though you didn't ask for it. I got a lot of clients who are asking me, how do I get rid of this lawyer? Well, you contact me, you hire me, and I get rid of that lawyer, because if they're not going to release your funds directly to you immediately upon my demand for doing so, we're going to register a complaint with the Law Society and call the cops for theft. Because once the lawyer's been fired, that's your money. He can't give it to CRA. He's got to give it to you, because he's not acting in any capacity at all. So we got to think that through. Also, if it comes to a death in the family, some of the arrangements that you should make would be to organize disposal of the body, whether it be burial or that new freezing technology they use, or cremation, whatever it is. Make that arrangement. The next arrangement that all of you want to make is start to drain every single bank account. You've got to find everything out that the dead person, your loved one, had, and start to take it all. Bank accounts, take the death certificate in, drain the account, everything. If they had credit cards, spend them to their absolute limit. It's not going to matter. What are they going to do about it? Spend them to, just one of the best things you can do if your mom, dad, uncle, aunt, whoever it might be, had a really good credit rating and they got credit cards with a lot of space on them, buy Esso gift cards, Sobeys gift cards, Walmart gift cards, anything that you know that you can use for groceries for the next 10 years. Just load up, man. Load up. The next thing you want to do after you drain all the bank accounts is you want to make a decision on how you're going to hide the house. Do you put the house into your own name, which I do not recommend, or do you register a numbered corporation and put the house into the numbered corporation, which I highly recommend, and that is something that we know how to do. So you should contact me and get all of that done. Get the house into a numbered corporation. Do you know at what point you should talk to the CRA? About a year after your loved one dies. Now, take your time, man. Breathe. Move all the money. Look at their will. Try your best to fulfill the wishes that they had for you. Try. Do your very best. Give it a shot. But breathe. Live your life. The CRA is not important. They're not part of your family. You owe them nothing. You don't have to speak to these people if you don't want to in any way. You're not legally obligated to talk to them at all. And at the same time, everyone, all they're going to do is give you a difficult time and take your stuff. So you talk to them last. About a year later, maybe two, that's when you can do the final taxes on your loved one. And should the CRA make an assessment of your loved one at that point, you can appeal it on behalf of your loved one. And then a year later, when it comes up, you can say, look, I'd like to subpoena my father who's dead, but he's kind of dead. So that case is going to go absolutely nowhere. And when you appeal something now in Canada, because the CRA is so far behind on everything that they're doing, it might take a good 18 to 24 months to get your appeal heard, right? Which is great. One more thing is absolutely awesome. This is some of the best news I've heard all week. In the city of Hamilton, Ontario in Canada, 48 kilometers west of Toronto, there's a tax courthouse. Now, it's not really a court. It's a tribunal where judges pretend to be presiding over a court. They shut down the Hamilton tax court because they're saying there's so much gun violence from all the foreigners. We don't know why they're so angry, and we're afraid of getting shot. So they shut down the courthouse. That's one less tax courthouse that Canada has. So these appeals that we're going to do won't get heard for maybe 2 years now, perhaps 2.5. So there's all kinds of time that we can buy to move all your assets out when we are appealing tax assessments brought forward by the thing. Okay, audio sucks. Everyone's telling me the audio sucks. Let's have a look here. Check, check, check. One, I don't know why the audio sucks. I do apologize for that. Let me switch microphones. I'll do that for you right now. Okay, everyone, if I can get all of you to maybe make some commentary and tell me what the sound is like. It sounds good on TikTok, guys, but it seems like on the browser, the sound is garbage. So I tell you what I'll do. I'm going to crash out. I'll come right back in 10 seconds. Okay, everyone, I'm back. So if I could, yeah, all right, guys, let me know how the audio is now, please. This is a problem that we've had before. I do apologize profusely for that. Check, check, check. Could I get some commentary, please, in Rumble and Facebook? Is that better? Okay, so that's what it was. We had to close the browser and come back in. Do apologize for the delay. All right. So getting back to what I'm saying is the CRA, you do everything last. In no way, shape, or form do we care at all about what the CRA has to say about our dead loved ones. That's it. Okay, good. So tonight, why would you put your house into a corp? Section 85. Okay. You put your house into a numbered corporation because it's incredibly easy for you to decide how many shares you're going to own. Let's say 10 people want to own a house. You put it into a numbered corporation. And this way you can just share and trade your shares back and forth as opposed to screwing around with other ownership records that cost a lot of money. Put them in a numbered corporations. If you know how to do a family trust, Jojo, then I suggest a family trust. But the numbered corporation is far better than ever putting your house into your own name. It is ridiculous to even consider putting it into your own name. I wouldn't do it now. Not ever. Not ever. It's too easy to lose when the CRA has a way to hurt you. And that would be it. Putting a lien on your property, that hurts immensely. And these scumbags, they don't care about who they hurt. They don't care about who dies as a result of their actions. If they feel like taking your money, they simply will. So that brings me to why we are here today. We are here today because we managed to get our hands on the Government of Canada Income Tax Audit Manual. That's right. So we're going to go through the audit manual for the CRA, and that is what we have here on the screen in front of us. Let's just maximize this, and we're going to zoom in. The Canada Revenue Agency has a manual which teaches its auditors, losers, criminals, how to be better criminals. That's what it does. So if we have a look at this thing, this is chapter 10. And if you look across the top there, you'll see it's got 125 pages on it. And that is positively ridiculous that a document would have this many pages. All right. Chapter 10, this chapter is under review and an updated version will be released at a later date. Maybe, maybe not. We don't care. All right. Table of contents. Look at all this crazy stuff in here. Look at this stuff. I'm going to read out what's in here and I'm going to interpret the Canada Revenue Agency's handbook on audits. All right. So the first thing is I want all of you to understand that an audit is the following. The Canada Revenue Agency wants your money, but they have absolutely no idea if they're entitled to it. And they have absolutely no idea what you have. And the only way for them to find out, everybody, is if they ask you and you and you and you answer them. If you answer them, you're absolutely screwed. Because now they've got you by the short and the curlies. Now they're going to grill you on absolutely everything. So let's talk about, oh, by the way, you don't have to cooperate with this. That's the best part. So if they say that they're going to audit you, you say, no, thank you. We're going to decline respectfully. By the way, here's your trespass notice. Stay away from my business, my family, my wife, my kids, my church. We can ban them from your property. And this is something that I do all the time for my clients. We absolutely have to get rid of the CRA and let them know that there's absolutely no way that we're going to cooperate with them at all, period. So we're going to read some of this for you. Chapter 10.1.0, Interviewing the Taxpayer, Introduction. The purpose of the interview is to gain critical information to help the auditor understand the business, its nature, its cycles, its revenue base, its customer base, and so on. The inherent risk and the risks of this that are specific to this taxpayer, the extent of the books and records, and the cycle in which they are created. Begin to assess the adequacy of books and records. Start to assess credibility or knowledge of the taxpayer and prepare coherent and relevant reports. But what if you said, you're not coming in this building, we are not cooperating, and get the hell out of here and do it now. And we will conduct the audit for you and we will send you what we determine. Reading on in this document, it says, this is also a good time to reconfirm the schedule of the audit and to agree on the frequency of the auditor contact and the expected response time for the audit queries, which means that they're going to ask you questions. The CRA auditor will ask you questions. And if you're silly and stupid and answer them, well, they're going to keep this relationship and dialogue going. But if you do what I do, and that's we research who they are and we put a nice big sign on my client's door saying that your name is banned from this property, as is the CRA, they can't enter the premises, just like that. Depending on the size of the business and the amount of segregation of the duties, it may not be possible to receive relevant answers to all interview questions from one individual. But you can tell your staff, we are not talking to the CRA. Anyone who talks to the CRA is going to be in violation of the Privacy Act, RSO 1990, and you will be subsequently terminated. And you are allowed to terminate people for divulging company secrets to someone who does not have a court order to get them from you. It's only something that they can do with a court order, and that court order has to have specific names on it. So if someone says, here's a court order, answer questions, I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm going to sit there. I'll spend 3 hours deliberately reading each and every line. And I'll just be, scratching things I disagree with and so on. But if my name's not on it after I've wasted all of their time, I'm going to hand it back and say, I will not be cooperating with this. My name's not on it. Right? It's that simple. And they're going to be angry because I killed 3 hours of their time. But that's what I do. I kill the time of the government. All right. For example, this is a prime example. For example, the taxpayer prepares all contracts for business, collects all payments, and makes all purchases. The spouse, who is a bookkeeper, creates all invoices, makes all deposits, pays all non-cash expenditures, and creates a set of books, a general ledger, and a synoptic journal. The representative prepares returns for other taxes such as goods and services tax, provincial tax, and once a year summarizes the bookkeeper's journals, makes adjustments, and files the tax return. So they're referring most likely to the accountant in this case. In this example, it would be important to discuss the business with the taxpayer and the bookkeeper, ask the bookkeeper and representative questions about the books and the records and the amounts on the tax return, and finally discuss any lifestyle and source of funds items with the taxpayer and the spouse. Wow. Do you see right there what I've always said? They will question your accountant. And if your accountant is a gutless piece of crap, like most of them are, your accountant is going to just spill the beans and say, well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess. That's what they'll do. Your accountant will screw you large. And we do not want to be screwed large by your accountant. So don't hire an accountant. Hire me. All right. Because I will act as your legal agent, which means they cannot call me to testify against you. And if I'm your legal representative, they can't question me about your business. So let's just say, for argument's sake, I watched you put 5 pounds of cocaine up your nose, and they start asking me questions about you. I got to say, I'm sorry, I can't answer those questions. I'm the legal representative of this person. Well, we think that he has a cocaine problem. I can't answer your questions. I'm terribly sorry. No, it's classic lawyer client privilege. You actually have that with me when you hire me, because clause 15 of the Taxpayers Bill of Rights allows you to hire me, even though I'm not a lawyer. Alrighty. They also say here that they're going to question you and you and you and your wife or your husband or your boyfriend, your lover, all 5 of your wives, whatever it might be. They're going to question all of you about your lifestyle. The nerve of these people. So what do you do for fun? How much alcohol do you drink? Do you smoke? Oh, yes. Which brand? Do you smoke cigars? Oh, yeah. Which brand? Have you ever brought cigars in from Cuba? How often do you smoke? What bank accounts do you have? What's in your bank accounts? Do you go to the movies often? How about bowling? They're going to ask you everything. The correct answer is I don't answer questions, or, go F yourself. You pick one. Doesn't make a difference. You don't answer the questions. Okay. You just don't talk to the CRA. It may not be appropriate to interview all relevant parties at the same time, since the taxpayer may not wish to answer lifestyle questions in front of a non-related bookkeeper. How about this? Don't answer the questions at all. Kick them out of your building, or don't let them in the first place. It may be necessary to interview the relevant parties separately. They're not police. And even if they are police, you have the right to remain silent. Remain silent. This should be determined during the initial contact with the taxpayer. For more information, go to chapter 9.18.1 on initial contact. Hey, can we get that? Can you send me a link to that? That's chapter 9.18.1. Thanks. Before disclosing details about the audit and possibly divulging confidential information with someone other than the taxpayer, the auditor must verify if the third party is an authorized representative. So could you imagine if the CRA came to your place to question you on your taxes and I'm there? Could you just imagine how much fun that would be? I'd simply hand them a letter saying, I represent the client. And if they were to sit down, I'd make it extremely uncomfortable for them. Like, have a glass of water. Oh, geez, accidentally spill it. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. Hot cup of coffee. And I'd fall over. Oh my God, is that all over your lap? I'm so sorry about that. Why are you people here? I would grill them. I would question them. I wouldn't stop with the questions. What's your name? Where do you live? What's your home address? What kind of car do you drive? I noticed you showed up in an Audi. Pretty expensive car for a guy that works for the government. How much do you make? And what kind of taxes do you pay? What color underwear are you wearing right now? What's your wife's name? How many kids do you have? Oh, yeah? How old? What are their names? Where do they go to school? What's their teacher's name? What time does school start? What time are they off school? Do their kids play hockey? Oh, really? What team? That's what I do. I question police when they question me. I just keep questioning them. And whenever I come across any government agent of any kind, I just keep rifling the questions at them. And they usually answer them. It's really weird. So I always go on the attack with these people. All right. So I'm just going to have a quick peek here. There's a bit more. If there is a third party at the initial interview, verbal assurance from the taxpayer that a third party is allowed to be present is acceptable. Right. So could you imagine that the CRA needs a handbook to state that if you, the taxpayer, has a lawyer or a legal representative there, that it's okay to talk? Because the CRA, they've told some of my clients, well, you can't have a lawyer here. We're the CRA. This is not a court. You can't have a lawyer. We are the tax authority of the country. Right? And some people, unfortunately, fall for that. You can have a lawyer present for anything. If you're at McDonald's and the girl says, would you like to supersize your fries? I don't answer questions. Please consult my lawyer. And your lawyer can tell them if you want large fries or medium fries. Like that, you can have a lawyer represent you on everything, especially the CRA. During the initial interview, confirm with the taxpayer if a copy of correspondence is also to be sent to the representative. That would be you telling them, send everything to my lawyer or my legal representative, and this conversation's over. If a copy of the correspondence is sent to a representative before communicating with the representative, confirm that there is a current authorization on file. If there's no authorization on file or it has expired, make sure the taxpayer completes the proper authorization. It is mandatory to include a copy of all correspondence in the audit file. All right, so what you can do at that point, I'm just telling you what you could do as the taxpayer. You could say, I don't know how to fill those forms out. I'm so sorry. If you give me 120 days, I'll figure it out and send you the form. No? Oh, get out, by the way. Thank you. When interviewing employees, do not let your employees be questioned by these people, and make it very clear, ladies and gentlemen, we have an agent, a legal agent working for us. He will answer all questions. Do not speak to the CRA or anyone else about this corporation. You'll be in violation of your contract. You'll be terminated. And that's it. Terminate right there on the spot. Rest assured that you would have me on your side training your employees on how to deal with the CRA, where I tell them, you got the right to remain silent. You don't answer questions. Give them my phone number. So when interviewing employees about operational procedures, a signed form AUT-01 is not necessary as long as the auditor does not reveal any confidential information, which of course they do. The questions asked must only relate to the duties that employee performs for the business, which of course they will ask everything. The auditor should have informed the owner that the employee interviews are necessary before conducting the interviews, which is why you don't let them in your building in the first place, and you deny the CRA the right, or not the right, sorry, the privilege of entering your premises. You always must protect yourself. All right. Moving on to the next bit here. Paragraph 23111D of the Income Tax Act gives the auditor broad powers. What actually doesn't. It just makes broad suggestions about broad would-be powers if this was actually enforceable, which it's not. All right. Allowing them to require the owner or manager to attend at the place of business and require any person on the premises to give all reasonable assistance and to answer proper questions. Okay. But again, you have the right to remain silent. So that right overrides this entire stupid manual. That's that. All right. No, you don't answer questions. Then we've got chapter 10.1.2, interview questionnaire. If the interview questionnaire has sections for business history, books and records, bank authorizations, personal expenditures, and a tour of the premises, it is a good starting point to develop your own audit-specific interview. All right, so they're going to train you. The CRA is going to train the staff on how to lie and how to bully people. But if you kick them out of your building, or you don't let them in the first place, and you force them to talk to me, none of this is going to happen. So the generic questionnaire should be modified based on screener's package, other preliminary review data like CRA searches, internet searches, sector profile review, information obtained during initial contact, audit plan, auditor's knowledge of information to include in the final reports, and team leader input. The team leader is actually the team leader of the CRA audit, another criminal, Nazi, fascist loser. All right, so the auditor has to print out the questionnaire, and they usually slam it down in front of the client, say, fill this out. Now, here's the question I've got for all of you. If the CRA, or even the IRS in the United States, but we're dealing with Canada right now, if a CRA representative wants you to fill something out, ask questions. How much do I get paid to do this? What? No one's ever asked me that before. That's how they're going to react. But you are not an indentured servant. None of us have to work for the government for free. None of us have to work for free at all, period. So I'm going to ask the question. Before I answer any of your questions, what do you pay per answer? Because I'll take 10 grand per answer. And that's three answers in advance, like $30,000, and I'll take it now, please. I'll take that in US dollars, by the way. So we need everyone to get all of you to start to be very rough and very tumble with these people. If someone says, I need you to do this, That's not a lawful command. That's just they need you to do something so that their boss won't be angry with them. I don't care about what someone needs to do to keep their job. I really don't. If I'm paying you for something, you better do it. If you're demanding something from me, you're paying me for it. Otherwise, I'm going to charge you criminally with extortion, theft, fraud, criminal harassment, intimidation, all of it. Absolutely all of it. By the way, if you're on TikTok tonight, can we get you all double tapping your screen, please? Just keep tapping. It's free to do, and it really does help. All right, so section 10.1.3 is not that interesting. It's about their own templates. That's all that it is. But we want to do this. This is the Canada Revenue Agency's manual for auditors to understand their duty. This chapter 10 has 125 pages within it. So 10.1.5, tour of premises. The tour of the premises is generally conducted after the initial interview and helps to confirm visual existence of a business, determine the existence and use of assets, indicate or confirm revenue streams and likely expenses, and verify and reinforce statements about the business structure and the accounting cycle. But if you never answer their questions in the first place and you ban them from the property, this doesn't happen. They're not going to tour your premises. Let me ask you the question, really, and I want all of you to think this through. But you invest your money into a business. You dedicate the first year of your life, 20 hours a day to get this thing making money. You're finally making money. You finally got your life into some semblance of order. And now you've got some jerk that you don't know is going to walk around and demand that you show them, train them for free how to run your business, who your clients are, who your staff are, who your suppliers are. Are you kidding me? No, it's my business. I'm the one that built the business. You want to know how it all works? You're going to hire me as a consultant to train you on how it works. And you're going to pay a pretty damn big fee for that. Let me promise you. All right. So you don't have to cooperate with these idiots. So this tour of premises will never happen if you hire me. If a tour is not possible, document the reasons on Form T-2020. Memo for file, the audit plan, and Form T-20 audit report. These documents, okay, so blah, 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 blah. So if you're a loser criminal who works for the CRA and the client's hired me, I'm telling you now, you're not doing a tour. So you may as well go straight to your Form T-2020 and fill out Kevin J. Johnston banned us from the property. What do we do? And they really won't know. Conducting the tour. Ooh, look at this. Individuals who are knowledgeable about the operations of the business should accompany the auditor during the tour. Well, first off, if someone I don't know wants to walk around my place, you're damn right that I'm going to be there. I'm walking everywhere with them. But wait a minute. We don't have to cooperate with the CRA. Audits are bogus. We don't have to cooperate with those, so they won't even be there in the first place. I'm going to keep saying that until it gets into all of our heads. So the individuals may include the owners or this may include individuals other than the owners or the owners. Write down observations during the tour as soon as the tour is over. Observations include verifying items from the balance sheet and interview, but it is just as important for the auditor to identify potential gaps. For example, offices with large amounts of empty wall or shelf space. Had something been there, none of your business. None of your business. You know, maybe I'm a weirdo and I store my stuff in my basement at home. None of your business. Sizable amounts of empty floor space that does not hold machinery or inventory or appear to be actively used by the business. Again, none of your business. Maybe, thank you for the heart, maybe I run a business where I want my staff playing floor hockey. So maybe I need, let's say, 7,200 square feet of floor space for the internal company house league for ball hockey. None of your business. That's it. It's none of your business. It's our floor space. We paid for it. We're going to write that off whether you like it or not. Period. Business vehicles not at the business during the tour. It's none of your business where my business vehicles are. Who cares? What if they're doing deliveries? What if it's a really busy day? Do you think I'm going to phone all of my couriers and say, hey guys, we've got some Nazi coming in from the CRA. I need everyone to park the vehicles for the day. And I'm going to pay you to sit in these vehicles so some loser in a suit can see them there and say, oh yeah, cars. so that he can take a pen and write the word cars on a piece of paper. No, that's why we don't cooperate with audits. Why are we wasting our time? It's our business. It's our company. We're going to run it our way. So then it also says, including other locations in your tour, other locations that may be included in the tour, vacant property. Of course, that would be trespassing. That's a crime. Suppliers or customers. Like, they will try to talk to your customers and suppliers. Don't tell them who your customers are. Don't tell them who your suppliers are, because they'll go and screw your relationships up. This is what happens when losers get a little bit of authority. They like to screw with people's lives. So don't let them do that. Owner or a shareholder personal residences or properties to help assess lifestyle. Really? So imagine this. Imagine I'm a guy. Let's just say I've got a small business. Let's say the business makes $1 million a year. Let's say that $1 million has to cover the salaries of 20 staff and the whole operation. So let's just say that $1 million gets eaten up to the point where there's only $5,000 left in the business. And I choose not to draw a salary because there'd be no money left for a salary anyway. And let's just say I'm a really good lover, just for the sake of argument. And I'm living with a woman who's newly a widow, but whose husband was a multi-billionaire. So I'm now living in this woman's house who's invited me to live there. It's her house. It's not mine. It's her money. It's not mine. It's her car. It's not mine. But they're going to come and assess the house that I live in. And they're going to say, wow, look at this guy. He lives in this mansion. Never once considering the fact that everything that I just said could be the fact, could be the truth, could be the reality. They don't care. They're just going to look at the big house and say, nope, we got to audit this guy. He makes too much money. He's living a lavish lifestyle. And that's when, if you let them, they would come in and rip your business apart, costing you money and possibly costing you your entire business. Now what? So if they come to your residence, like literally if they come to your residence, you call 911 immediately and you lie and you say, I've got an armed man here who's here to kill me, and just scream into the phone. Those cops will be there in a second. Now, for the ladies out there, I hate this. I hate the Me Too movement. But if CRA representatives are coming to your house, ladies and gentlemen, or your business, and you're there alone, scream rape at the top of your lungs. Just keep screaming it. Call 911. Rapist, rapist, rapist. Just keep screaming it. Top of your lungs. The CRA are the only people on the planet that I want to see go to prison for that reason. The only ones. They deserve it. Do not let these people into your personal lives. It's a scummy thing to do, but what they do is worse by a lot. All right. Chapter 10.2.0, Books and Records. Subsection 230-1 of the ITA, the Income Tax Act, places an obligation on every person who is carrying on business or is required to pay or collect taxes or the amounts to keep records and books of account at the person's place of business or residence in Canada. Okay. Obligation, that's not a legal term that says you freaking must do it. So this is not a law that says you have to do this. This is merely a suggestion. It's a request on their part. Because when they say required, that's a request. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to suggest to all of you, if you want to keep your records outside of Canada, well, we'll store them here in Panama for you, because we're going to cover that shortly. Does the CRA record you when they arrive? I don't actually know. I don't know. But even if they do, as soon as you tell them you have to leave this property now, they have to go. That's where it ends. Right there. It ends right there. Okay. Yeah, private property, no entry on the front of your home. You can actually put signs on your property that says the Canada Revenue Agency and all employees of it are banned from this property, and give like this list of things you would do, like a $5,000 fine if they show up and so on. And if they get really belligerent, then unfortunately you may have to defend yourself. I always recommend going to violence last. But if they get belligerent and they come at you, yeah, I guess you'll have to defend yourself. And then you can sue the living crap out of the CRA and that particular agent after you phone the police that they assaulted you. But make sure that they lunge first. Don't you lunge first. If they lunge first in any way that seems aggressive, defend yourself. You're allowed to, especially if you're afraid of them. And with the act that they put on, a lot of people are absolutely terrified of them. Anyway, books and records, section 210.2.1. Register. Actually, that's not a very interesting one. You can keep books if you want when you're running a company or not. If you don't keep books, what would they, even if they audited you and there's no books, what are they going to audit you on? All right. They're just going to like, you got to get your books in order. Okay. Thank you. That's all right. Oh, Robbie says, I've been dealing with the CRA for 20 years. Everything he said, 25 years, everything that Kevin's saying is true. Thank you. Appreciate that. So if you had no records and you allowed the CRA to do the audit, they're going to say, well, there's no records, but there's stuff everywhere. And you'll say, yeah. But if we don't want them in, they're not going to know if you have records or not. And if you think that they're going to try to get a court order for your records, well, then you can destroy your records before they get to them. What are they going to do if you destroy them? You say, well, look, I don't know. I can't find them. I'm sorry. Can't find them. There we go. So a definition of a record is a taxpayer's records, including paper and electronic records. So we know what that is. That's invoices. That would be quotations. That would be money in, money out, payroll, any extra taxes going on, rent, all that stuff. That's all your records. Quite frankly, none of that are the CRA's business. And you're not going, if you hire me, you're not going to ever have to tell them this stuff. All right. So I'm going to move down a little bit further here. Electronic records. During an audit, the taxpayer may raise questions about the nature and extent of electronic records to be maintained. The auditor should discuss the situation with the team leader. That's his boss at the CRA. A computer audit specialist, CAS, may have to be consulted for a technically complete answer to the taxpayer. Now, that does not mean they're going to bring some hacker in to look at your computer. Because if they say, can we see your computer? And you say no, conversation's over. Alrighty. Computer audit specialists. At the time of initial contact with the taxpayer, the auditor should determine if records are kept electronically, and if so, what type of software system is used. Do you know how they find that out? You tell them. Oh, look at my laptop here. It's a gaming laptop, man. It's the best, man. It's got 64 gig of RAM. I got 4 video, and I use Windows 11, man. Or you could say something on the lines of, if you touch this computer, you're going to be arrested right now. So that's the way that you do this, all right? For the auditor to request assistance from a computer audit specialist, they have to create an ECAS case action, which is integrous and complete the template request for CAS assistance available for whatever, man. For detailed instruction, never mind that. Generally, a CAS may be able to retrieve, process the records, or have them processed by CAS National Processing Lab and provide the results to the auditor before meeting with the taxpayer. The sooner the request for assistance is complete, the faster the results will be provided. So what they're saying here is, if you're stupid enough to give them permission to leave with your computer, they'll get their experts to go through your computer. Now, this is the Canadian government that we're talking about. So let me tell you what the CRA probably will do. They'll find, let's just say they found nothing wrong with your records on your computer. They're going to be angry. I bet $50 one of them puts child pornography on your computer and then calls the RCMP, because when they find nothing wrong with you, they get really angry about that. Like they're weirdos. So can I see your computer? No. Can I come on the premises? No. Can we come in? No. Would you like to answer some questions? No. Can we come to your house? No. Can we have a look at your car? No. Like, no. The answer is always going to be no. We collectively, we will do the audit of your business or you personally for them and submit it to them with the appropriate signed affidavit. Okay. So we're just going to have a look here. Records prepared by external accountants. The CRA does not recognize solicitor-client privilege for accountants. I've been saying that all along. Okay? That means your accountant, unless they are a tax lawyer, or you've hired them under amicus curiae and clause 15 of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, which is what you do with me, then they will not recognize that privilege. Your accountant, if they had any balls, could say, I don't answer questions, get a court order. but they won't because they're cowards. So accountants are expected to produce any working papers, journal entries, and any other document relevant to the audit of the taxpayer. Notice how it says accountants are expected. It doesn't mean required. It doesn't mean must. It doesn't mean they have to. It's just that they expect the accountant to do so. Yeah. So with that being the case, your accountant is probably going to scrag on you. They're probably going to tell them everything, but I won't. It would be, as they say, a cold day in hell before I would in any way, shape, or form ever cooperate with the CRA and answer a single question. And I mean, not one. And they'll say, well, we don't recognize solicitor-client privilege because you're not a licensed lawyer. And just look at clause 15 of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. And that means that you must deal with me because they hired me to represent them. And amicus curiae is a very powerful piece of Canadian law. So you can actually have anyone you want represent you at any time. And that is what the average person does not know. So everyone, you hire me and you do have what they call solicitor-client privilege. I'm not telling them jack. Accountants are expected, okay, for, hold on. Language expectation for books and records. The Income Tax Act does not stipulate that books and records be maintained in English or French, only that they be maintained in a way to enable the determinations of taxes payable. You see right there? That's it. That's the only reason that an audit takes place, is because they want some taxes. You may not even owe them. And if you allow them in there and they do the full audit, they're going to find some way to tax you. They always do. So what's the rule? We do not cooperate. Chapter 10.2.2, legislative authority to inspect, audit, or examine books and records. All right, this is where it gets hilarious. In connection with an audit, subsection 2311 provides the legislative authorization for CRA auditors too. Now, let me explain what that term means. Legislative authorization simply means we can't give you power, but we're going to tell you that you can pretend that you have power. That's what that means. So CRA auditors they mistakenly believe that they can inspect, audit, or examine the books or records of a taxpayer, inspect, audit, or examine the books and records of another person that relates or may relate to the information that should be in the books and records of the taxpayer. That would be your suppliers and your clients and your staff. And I'm telling you, they don't. Examine the inventory of a taxpayer. Hell no, you're not touching that, because what if they decide that they want to steal our stuff, right? First, they'll know that we have it, and then they'll probably start pocketing it, because that's what the CRA does. Enter into a premise or place where the business is carried on, except a dwelling house, and see below. Well, here's the way that works. If you have a retail store that's open to the public, they can enter just like the public can. But when they say, oh, here's my business card and I'm with the CRA, out, get out right now. And they have to go. That's it. They have to leave. If you have an office, though, where you keep the front door locked, they would have to knock on the door. And I recommend that if you see some guy in a suit that you don't recognize knocking on the door, don't open the door. Yell through the glass. What do you want? Oh, I'm with the CRA. You have 30 seconds to get off this property or I'm calling the police. 29, 28. Just, that's it. You don't ever let them inside, especially because they can't come in. It's locked. The door is locked. They say that they can enter a premise or place where the inventory is kept. Think about the audacity of someone to just walk into a warehouse and say, oh, hi, I'm with the CRA. I'm going to count all your inventory. Again, the correct answer is get out. If you don't have a warrant, get out. Wow, it just keeps going. Look at this. Enter into a premise or place where anything is done in connection with any business or any books or records that are kept or should be kept by the taxpayer. So that is extremely broadly worded, poorly worded, I might add. And if they're going to word it that poorly, everyone, then that would mean that in their perfect world, they could enter your car, they could enter your truck, your motorhome, whatever it might be. And of course, they can't. Require the owner or manager of the property or business to give reasonable assistance to the auditor related to the administration or enforcement of the Income Tax Act. You do not have to help anybody enforce the law against you. You have the right to remain silent. So if the cops are going to arrest you, you don't talk. You talk to your lawyer. CRA comes by, you talk to your lawyer. Throw them out. No, we're not cooperating. Require the owner of the manager of the property or business to answer all proper questions related to the administration or enforcement of the ITA. You have the right to remain silent. Dude, get out of here. Require the owner or the manager to attend at the premises or place with the auditor for the purpose of giving reasonable assistance in answering questions. I don't answer questions. No one's paying me for my time to answer questions like that, so it ain't going to happen. Require any person on the premises or place to give reasonable assistance to the auditor related to the administration or enforcement of the ITA. Again, they want you to help them enforce this. Nope. Require any person on the premises or place to answer all proper questions asked by the auditor related to the administration or enforcement of the ITA. Again, nope. Nope. Ban them from the property. Call the cops if you have to. That's where it ends. When auditors send audit contact letters or subsequent requests for information or documents, they are using subsection 2311, which just says that you're required to answer questions, but you're actually not. Required is not a legal, lawful command. It's a request. Although subsection 23111 allows an auditor to request third parties not under audit to provide information or documents that relate or may relate to the taxpayer under audit, CRA policy advises the immediate use of subsection 23121 in certain instances for instructions to obtain information or documents from third parties not under audit. So there's some rules, but it essentially says you can ask questions and you can tell people that they're required to answer, and those people can tell you where to go. I mean, people are getting really good at on YouTube and TikTok telling cops no. Well, you tell the CRA no as well. Oh, I like this one. Refusal of a taxpayer to provide information or documents. Open, honest, and professional communication with the taxpayer is the best tool to avoid a refusal. That's not what they do. The auditors come and they lie. They get really loud, really rude, really belligerent, and they say, oh yeah, we're with the Canada Revenue Agency. You have to ask our questions. So no, that's not professional. That's lying. That's the commission of a crime. That's called intimidation. Section 423 of the Criminal Code, 5 years in prison. The auditor must explain, okay, see right there, it says must. He actually must. He does have to do this. The auditor must explain why the items are needed and provide assurances regarding confidentiality. Let me tell you something about confidentiality. I don't trust anybody in government at all, and that is my right, and I will act according to my lack of trust against the Canadian government because we've learned what the Canadian government's up to. They are completely unreliable and untrustworthy. So the answer is no. Check this out. The Taxpayer's Bill of Rights confirms the taxpayer's right to privacy and confidentiality. But the law actually says you have the right to remain handsome. Oh, sorry, I read the word handsome here. Silent. Thank you, Bindi, for saying that to me. You just saw me. That's what we call a Freudian slit. Right. So thank you, Bindi, for the compliment. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights confirms the right to privacy. The Taxpayer's Bill of Rights also confirms you don't have to cooperate. And the law says you can remain silent. So the auditor's out of luck if you hire me. If the auditor is met with a refusal to provide information, the first step is to determine if the information or documents could be obtained from a third party. So these sneaky pricks are going to go behind your back and try to get that information. And that is where you issue a warning to all of your staff and your spouse and your friends and whatnot, and your clients, if you need to, that they are not to cooperate because you have already put forward your appeal, which is what I will do. And when I put forward the appeal and the banning of this representative from talking to anyone, that's it. The audit's over. So at that point, it's defamation of character. and literally you can sue the guy for defamation of character. All right. So for instructions, go to 10.6.2. And we're going to go to 10.6.2 in a second here. It is the CRA's expectation that taxpayers will be able to satisfactorily respond. So it's an expectation. If the CRA is expecting me to cooperate with them, they're going to be expecting for a very, very long time. All right. That's going to be a very long wait. It would take me 100 lifetimes to muster up enough energy to consider thinking about helping them in any way. So good luck, guys. All right. So it's the CRA's expectation that taxpayers will be able to satisfactorily respond to the majority of these requests by the initial request deadline. Where a taxpayer does not satisfactorily respond to the initial request by the deadline or request additional time, then a follow-up request may be issued with a revised deadline, which means so long as we keep saying get lost, they have to change their audit schedule. They can't do anything. They just can't. A request from a taxpayer for additional days past the initial deadline should be granted for factors or events that are outside the taxpayer's control, such as illness, death, natural disaster, and may include a change in representative. Okay, so let's talk about delay tactics here. You can say, I was diagnosed with brain cancer. That's it. Keep it vague. Okay, so now you need more time. You ask for 6 months. Who diagnosed you? Ronald McDonald. Okay, there you are. Then when you all come back, you get ill again. You go to hospital and say, oh, I feel like killing myself. And then come out the next morning saying, no, I changed my mind. But that would be considered illness, mental illness. Then what you do is you fire me and you tell, as your representative, and then you tell them, that's right, you tell them, I just fired the representative. We need 120 days to hire a new one and then hire me back in month number 5. There you go. We just delayed them 2 years. Just like that. See, them's the rules. I didn't write them. These events or factors are not intended to be exhaustive, and professional judgment should be used when issuing revised timelines, to which, of course, we're going to tell them no. And at this particular point, if they're going to be hyper insistent, we are going to hire a private investigator to find out who this particular auditor is, and we're going to send cease and desist letters to their home. But at this particular point, because now they've pissed me off as your representative, it's going to be live. It's going to be live on the Kevin J. Johnston show, or it's going to be live on this show. It's going to be live. So I will have my representatives out there with the cameras running, walking up to the guy's house, with the selfie stick going, 2 or 3 cameramen, ringing the doorbell to serve the cease and desist letter and probably a lawsuit against them. And that's going to happen somewhere around 2 a.m, I'm sure. And the doorbell will be rung all night long until they answer the door and take the paperwork, at which point then my guys have to leave. So you CRA people out there, like, there's a new sheriff in town, man. I've had enough of you guys. And I know you don't like me, but I'm completely outside your jurisdiction. So good luck in harming me in any way. You've already done it. Good luck. But now that I'm in the position that I'm in, and I've chosen to do this full time, you're all in a heap of trouble. So if I were you, I do what I instruct you to do when I'm representing my clients. The justification for granting or disallowing any additional days to respond to a request must be documented in the audit file. So if the guy's going to say no, and he says because he doesn't have brain cancer, well, how does he know? And through the Freedom of Information Act, we can then request that record and see what he put in there. True story. You can also sue the guy and apply for a third-party arbitrator to get involved. That delays it even further. In addition to the follow-up request will include a warning that a compliance order may be sought under the virtue of Section 2317 of the Income Tax Act. There'll be no further additional delays provided. So that means they have to go to a judge now and say, he may have brain cancer, he may not. He fired his lawyer, then hired him again. He doesn't seem like he's all there. He tried to commit suicide. We don't know what to do. Like, we want you to force him to comply. Now, a judge might write an order for that, but you know what we're going to do when we get that judge's order? We're going to appeal it, like right away. We're going to appeal it because everything in Canada is appealable. And we're going to criminally charge this representative with malicious prosecution. Yeah, we're going to go right to the courthouse and file charges against that individual. And that being the case, we can get a restraining order against the individual so they can take their court order and shove it. When considering issuing a revised deadline to provide information, auditors will adhere to established standard timelines. Okay, that's for them, not us. So I want to go all the way down now to 10.6.4 or 6.1, sorry, 10.6.1. Introduction. All right, this is where we refuse as people to cooperate with them. 10.6.1, introduction. The instructions in this section are specific to obtaining information from third parties, not the taxpayer under audit. Okay, so this is the taxpayer now. You've hired me. We have banned the Canada Revenue Agency from your property. We are not going to cooperate with the audit. We've told them that we are going to run the audit for you and you will accept what we give you. So now what they're saying is, here's how you become a bunch of sneaky criminals. For audit steps, to obtain information or documents from the taxpayer, go to section 10.7.5. A third party is defined as a taxpayer that is not the taxpayer under audit. To ensure that the books and records of the taxpayer are adequate to determine taxes payable, to obtain information not available from the taxpayer, to determine the accuracy of some documents, and to verify an explanation provided by the taxpayer. But we're not going to explain anything. So they can't verify any of that. 10.6.2, auditors' authority to obtain information or documents from a third party. Auditors have the authority to examine the book. Hold on. They have the authority if you cooperate. That's it. Auditors have the authority to examine the books of account and records that are needed to determine the taxes payable under the ITA, as well as to obtain assistance from the taxpayer necessary to perform their work under the inspection powers of Section 2311. This authority also permits an auditor to interview the taxpayer under audit. But we covered this like earlier in the show. We're not cooperating because they're not paying us for our time. We are not indentured servants. We do not work for the CRA. So their policies and their little rules here don't apply to us. Legislative authority. Subsection 2311(1) provides the authority for authorized persons to examine books and records. The legislation specifies that any authorized person is allowed, not must, allowed to examine at all reasonable times any of the following that may be relevant in determining the obligations and entitlements of the taxpayer. Documents, if we feel like handing them over, which we don't. The property described in an inventory, which of course we're going to ban them from. Any other information on this property, which we are not going to share. And we're going to tell our staff, you don't cooperate because you've hired me. I do all the talking. In addition, the wording in subsection 23111 to inspect, audit, or examine, in quotation marks, a taxpayer's books, records, and documents is broad enough to include asking the taxpayer for an oral interview, to which, of course, you know which four-letter word I'm going to give them when they say, we'd like to interview you, right? You just know what I'm going to say. The auditor may enter into any premises, may, does not mean must or actually is lawfully allowed to do so. May, if you invite him in. May enter the premises or place where books and records are or should be kept and require a person on the premises or place to give the auditor reasonable assistance and answer proper questions. Could you imagine the audacity of someone walking into your business, making you stand beside them while they open up your files and look through them? And you're supposed to stand there, not doing your job, not running your company, and answer this guy's questions? No, you've got the right to remain silent. The right to remain silent overrides all of this. All of it. 10.6.3, types of third parties. There are two categories of third parties, unnamed and named. An unnamed third party is an entity that the auditor believes, not is, believes has information or is non-compliant but the auditor is unable to identify that entity. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't tell the CRA who our clients are, who our suppliers are, who our mechanics are, who we bank with. We don't tell them this stuff. It's none of their business who we're married to, who we're sleeping with, who we're hanging around. None of that stuff. So if we don't tell them who we work with outside the company, they don't know who to go to. All right. So an example may be during an audit, a large adjustment is found to a salary expense, and the representative is surprised and says that they handle all of their clients in the same manner. Quotes, all of their clients are likely specific taxpayers, but their identities are unknown, so they are unnamed. Right. You're not going to tell the CRA who your staff are. Period. Obtaining information specifically on this unnamed taxpayer or group requires the authorization of a judge. Court order. They have to get a court order. So if this guy asks, who works for you? Who works for you? Who? And I say, no. You're banned from the property. You can't come near us. Here's your trespass warning. We've served you court papers at your house and you're still bugging me? Yeah, you better have a court order. You'd better have it. But a court order is not a warrant. It's not a warrant. A court order would be something along the lines of, I've got 30 days to submit to this auditor what the auditor is looking for. I can appeal that court order in that 30 days. So the way the appeal would work is I can wait until the 27th day and enter my appeal. And then I get 60 days to perfect the appeal. So the auditor's not getting jack. He's not getting in. The appeal of that decision has to come up first. That'll be a year from now. Think about that. Named third parties are typically taxpayers whose identities were made apparent during the review of the books and records or interview of the taxpayer under audit, which is why I would tell any employer that I have, my name better not be on any records in there, because if the CRA comes by here and gets my name and they audit me based on you, I'm going to do a lot of damage to your company. So that is why whenever I had a job, I always was on contract. I would write invoices every Friday and say, here's your invoice for all the work I've done. Pay me. Cut me a check. I'm done. What happens if you don't follow a court order is they have to file a motion to have you held in contempt of court. And that motion will be heard within 2 or 3 months. And then what you do is you go in there, having moved all your, like, you've bought yourself time to move all your records and move all your money and so on. And then when you go to court and they present this to the judge saying that they want you to be held in contempt, and you show up without a lawyer and you ask this question, is this gentleman looking for prison time? And as soon as the guy says yes, oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor, I have to have a lawyer for this. You have to have a lawyer. If they're looking for jail time, you can't just go in there self-represented if you have no idea why you're being called in there in the first place. That just delayed everything a year. There we are. Alrighty. So named third parties typically can be grouped into 2 categories. Those of interest for lead generation and those who may have information which relates or may relate to the taxpayer under audit. So let's just say I phoned you a year ago and you've got me in there as a lead. And then you cooperate with the CRA when they're doing their audit and they see my name. And then they call me because of your audit. I'm going to be livid, man. Livid. So don't put yourself in the position of being sued by your customers and your suppliers for being stupid and cooperating with the Canada Revenue Agency. Third parties who may have information include spouses, common law partners, or other related, associated, or connected persons to the taxpayer under audit. Persons include persons, partnerships, and trusts. So, ladies and gentlemen, if your spouse answers one question to one police officer or one CRA representative about you, that's not your spouse. If my woman was ever to answer one question to a cop about me or the CRA, she's gone. Right there, the trust is broken. It's done. I can tell you this right now. I would never answer any questions to anyone about a loved one of mine, not even at gunpoint. You're just going to have to pull the trigger. That's how it works. So everybody out there, try your very best not to destroy your relationships by cooperating with these people. As soon as you've hired me as your agent, that's it. It's all over. You would give me a list of everyone that this person is not allowed to speak to, and all of you go and get a restraining order against this guy. You're allowed to get a restraining order against the CRA. That's the best part of the law. So they will certainly go to chartered banks and trust companies and lending institutions if they know where you bank. If they know you pay property tax somewhere, they'll certainly go to that municipality. They'll go anywhere. They'll look for court records on you. They'll look for police records on you, whatever it might be. But you also have to remember this. That particular guy who works for the CRA has to justify all these actions. So if he's going to do all this, it's not like he's going to know what he's doing. They're not investigators. They would have to hire an investigator to do this. So if this guy hires a private eye, typically these guys are $1,500 a day. And this private investigator racks up a bill of $500,000, and it ends up that you owe $100,000. This agent, this auditor is going to be in hell. Like, he really is going to be in crap. 10.6.4. Methods of obtaining information or documents from named third parties. Obtaining information or documents through personal visits. The auditor. Third parties may be contacted through a personal visit, letter, or a telephone call. Oh, yeah, you don't want to be a CRA agent coming to see me in person. That is something that you just do not want to be, because I will immediately interpret that as an assault on me. If you're coming to question me on something like this, I'm going to perceive you as somebody who's fully armed and ready to kill me, and I will defend myself to the best of my ability, which isn't too bad. It's really not that bad. Another auditor from the same tax service office. View Integris to determine if another auditor from the same TSO is currently auditing the third party in question. If so, the auditor who needs the information or documents should ask the other auditor to obtain the document information. This is a valid use of the subsection. But if all of us out there continue to live by the adage of, I've got the right to remain silent, it doesn't matter that you're an auditor for the Canada Revenue Agency. You're essentially just a collection agent. You have no power. You have no authority. We're not cooperating. Get a warrant. Good luck getting that. Okay, so obtaining information or documents through a written request. In some cases, information or documents may be obtained from a third party by sending a written request. Obtaining information by mail is used if a visit to the third party is not possible. Okay, so what do you do with letters? Is if they're asking for a ton of information, we tell them that we are going to pass. Thank you for the offer, but we're formally declining your request for this. And you'll have to talk to our legal agent, and you give them my contact info. So you don't have to answer letters in any way other than to acknowledge you received it and request denied. When information or documents are required from a third party whose books and records are located in the geographical responsibility of a second TSO, approval should be attained from the ADAs of both the first and second TSO before sending a letter. This approval does not apply to sales transaction information requested from eBay or PayPal. Notice how they didn't list Stripe or Square or Crypto.com or any of those guys. So it's right now only eBay and PayPal that cooperate with the CRA. So if you've got PayPal accounts, be careful. As soon as you know there's an auditor involved, move all that to Square.com or Stripe.com or Wise.com or Coho or any of them. Move it to any of those other services. All right. This should be good. 10.6.5. Again, for those who are joining us late, this is the Canada Revenue Agency handbook that all of its auditors get. This is them being trained to be better thieves. That's all this is. But nothing in this document here circumnavigates the real law or the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, just for the record. What if a private investigator contacts you by email to call them? You give the private investigators information to me. I will call them and I'll ask them a ton of questions, but I'm not going to answer any of their questions at all, period, because we don't have to. A private investigator is just some schmuck with a license to behave like a schmuck. That's it. I asked this question of all my female clients. I'm going to ask all of you out there right now. If I made a phone call to all of you saying, hello, ma'am, my name is Kevin J. Johnston. I'm with the Canadian National Underwear Institute, and I'm going to need to know what bra size you are, what type of bra you're currently wearing, and what style of panties you're currently wearing. Would that be thongs, fullbacks, or granny? What would you say? You'd probably tell me to go straight to hell or other colorful language. Your banking information is far more intimate than your underwear information. All of you need to understand that. So please just respect your money more than your underwear. Your underwear is not important. You can replace that for $2 here in Panama, but you can't replace the money that they steal from you. So procedures for them obtaining information on you. The following procedures are generally apply to obtain information or documents from third parties. However, each TSO must have its own procedures and some specific rules apply. Section 2311 gives an auditor broad inspection powers, but only if you cooperate, and is most often the first tool an auditor should use to seek information from the taxpayer or third party. Notable exceptions are financial institutions, accountants, notaries, eBay, or PayPal. Depending on the nature and volume of the information sought, a reasonable amount of time for a third party to respond may vary. 30 days is considered a normal benchmark. It is important to try and obtain the information as early in the audit as possible. In all cases, a letter must be sent to the taxpayer setting out the date and time of the appointment. Okay, so this happened in Calgary. Client of mine has this Chinese guy, Long Duck Ding Dong, Quing Quing Bo Bing, whatever his name was, has the temerity to state to my client, I'm coming to audit you on Monday, March, whatever it was, and you will have the following 42 items ready for me to inspect. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? So called him, got his fax number. I said, I've got some correspondence I would like to send. Oh, who are you? I said, you don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that I've got a legal document coming over to your place. Now, I would prefer to give it to you at work. I'm very polite. I would prefer to give it to you at work. But if you prefer, I can research you, find out where you live, and serve you there. It's your call. Okay, I give you my fax number. Okay, I give you fax number right now. Oh, okay. So he gives me the fax number, and we sent him in a denial, a declination that we will not be cooperating with your audit. Okay. Not only that, we banned him from the property, gave him a full-blown trespass notice, and we put a sign on the door and the back doors, the garage door, the gates outside, everything with his face on it, banning him and all CRA staff from the premises. I also told this guy that you're not to contact my client at home, place of worship, gymnasium, anywhere they might be. You talk to me. So he get angry with me. You can't do that. I embarrassed. It's embarrassing. You can't do that. Because in Chinese culture, there's something called face, right? So if he was to argue with me and say, I want to audit you, and I let him do it, he gains face. It's like pride. He won something. But if I was to say no in front of his whole family, he loses face. And they're all going to look at him saying, like, you have to redeem yourself. How dare, like, you're awful now. We lose respect. So with his face being on my client's door on a trespass notice, telling him he's banned, he loses a lot of face. So his ridiculous culture dictates that he must now try to find some way to regain that. Well, I wish him the best of luck, because I have more that I can do to not only remove face from this guy and his ridiculous culture, but I have the ability to cost this guy hundreds of thousands of dollars of his own personal money. And let's see if face is that important to him when we have him in discovery finding out what he owns to pay my client. All right, there we go. That's right, Sandys. I diminished his honor. And if you work for the CRA, you have no honor. So you can take your face and shove it where, nothing shines. Okay. Your brother owes income taxes and CRA places lien on his house. Does the lien remain on until he's paid it? The lien remains on until he's paid it, or we file a motion in the court to get rid of it. We have to appeal their decision. That'll come up a year from now. File a motion in the court and say, Your Honor, we've appealed this. It hasn't come up yet. We need to have this lien removed because it's now not based on anything. Get a hold of me, Christy. That's what I do for a living. All right. Now, check this out. During the visit to the third party, this is in this case here, this is the Canada Revenue Agency going to your friends, your relatives, your suppliers, your clients, going to their place because you don't cooperate. During the visit to the third party, upon arrival at the third party's place of business, the auditor must provide the contact person with identification and a business card. Okay, that's fair. The auditor must state the reason for the visit is to obtain information or documents necessary to complete another audit. And at this particular point, you would hopefully be an adult and say, you need to leave. Now, I am not wasting any time talking to you. During the conversation with the third party, the name of the taxpayer under audit will likely have to be stated by the auditor. Now, all of a sudden, even though there's a policy here that the CRA guy is going to say, oh, we're auditing Kevin J. Johnston. That's defamation. Because if I said you're not, then you're not. It's defamation. You're absolutely right. I'm bringing a lawsuit to that guy and serving him at his house at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning and making sure the whole world knows where he lives at that point, because I'll be pretty pissed. And if you're a government employee, don't piss me off because you know what's going to happen. This is a legitimate release of confidential information. There's no such thing as legitimate release of private information to a third party who is irrelevant to the person in question. That is not a law. That is a CRA policy. We do not work for the CRA. So yeah, defamation of character right there. Breach of privacy. That's another one. However, the auditor must not specifically state that the taxpayer is under audit. Well, how would they not reason that for themselves? The third party may draw its own conclusions. I see, plant the seed in their head. But the auditor will not breach the confidentiality provisions of Section 241. As soon as you mention that you're auditing me, that's it. My privacy has now been breached. So good luck, man. I'm coming for you. The auditor must tell the third party that its books and records are not under audit. And of course they're not, but the third party, before we even get there, should have said, thank you very much for your time. You're trespassing. Beat it. And I'm going to ask the males out there now, especially the men, start talking that way. Let's go back to the 70s. Beat it. Get scarce. Bolt. Scram. Now. Get out of here. And if you have to, you are allowed on your own property to put your face within a foot of them and tell them, you got to go now, leave now. You're allowed to do that because you are protecting your land. You've actually got the right. If they're not leaving, you have the right to just, not punch them, but to guide them out and off the property. You've got that right. I have asked a question of a lawyer of mine, and this is something I pondered. I thought about this. If a CRA auditor comes to your business and you tell them, you got to get off this property now. Let's just say, for example, they came to the back door and you told them you're going out the gate, like you're going out the back gate now, and their car is on your property. I'm wondering, and I don't have an answer yet, but I'll try to find it. If we were to close the gate, keeping their car there, could we charge them $500 a day to have the car stored on the property, and then let them know that if they don't pay that bill, that we're going to sell the vehicle and have that paid? I'm wondering about that. So I did ask my friend who's a lawyer. We'll get an answer for you at some point in the future, but I can promise you, if it was my property in Canada and the CRA guy shows up, he's not getting into his car. His car's staying where it is. He's leaving. Now, if he wants it off the property, what I will do is I'll ask him for his credit card information. and I'll hire a tow truck with his payment info. He can tow his car because the tow truck driver, he'll be allowed on, but the CRA guy will not. All right. And I will not be held accountable for any tires that may or may not get slashed on my property because it's not my responsibility. You come on my property, nothing is my fault. Nothing. I don't care what the insurance company says. I'm telling you, it ain't my fault. And you're going to have to put up with whatever happens to your car on my land. Alrighty. Concluding the visit. When concluding the visit, ensure that the third party understands that the records were not audited and thank them for their cooperation. Never let the CRA in your building. Okay, there you go. If you had a no trespass sign, I think you can hold their vehicles. I think you're right, Joseph. I think if the no trespass sign said that if they enter the property, the vehicles become our property, there could be some argument to be made for that. There could be. Telephone calls to third parties. The auditor may, not must, may telephone a third party to obtain information or documents, although a personal visit is preferred because that's intimidation under the criminal code. The auditor should follow the same procedures as noted above with respect to preparation of documents. Wow. Specific third party situations. Spouse or common law partner of an individual under audit. To provide the greatest degree of confidentiality, the individual under audit is requested in writing to provide the spouse or common law partner's information. Holy hell. Do you think for a second that anybody on this planet's got the right to ask me who I'm sleeping with? Do you honestly think, CRA, I know you're watching this, that I am obligated in any way, shape, or form to tell you who my children are, who my wife is, might be, who she was? That's the kind of a question. Actually, I'm just going to put a warning out right now. If any government official, I don't give a shit who you are, if any government official steps into my personal space and makes a demand of me to know who my wife, girlfriend, lover is, you might wake up 3 days from now. It will be the worst uppercut you've ever received in your life. That's going to be the answer to your question. And I'm warning you now, because as a man, it is my duty, not my job. It's my duty as a man to defend every facet of the people that I love. So if I am a married man with children and you're asking me anything about them, the best thing for you to do is run like hell, because my duty dictates that you must be knocked out cold. You must be on the ground. You must learn the lesson of a lifetime and make sure that everybody who works for the CRA sees just how much damage was done to you. I'll probably spend 6 months in prison for it, but it would be worth it, because I'm telling you, it won't just be the uppercut. There's going to be a lot more that comes with it. I hate the CRA, and I hate those who think that they've got the right to my personal information. You think because you've got a shirt and tie on and some business card that you have any rights whatsoever in relation to me? I'm telling you that you don't. I'm the one that's got rights to dictate my life and the terms of my business and the terms of my interactions with my family and my suppliers and my clients. Don't ever think that you have that right. It suggests here that you do. I'm telling you that you don't. And I'm not going to get into the details of what I would do after the guy was knocked out cold. I'm just going to say that it would make the front page of every newspaper in the country. He won't be dead, because I don't believe in killing my enemies. They can't suffer if they're dead. It'll make the newspapers, though, I promise you. You don't want to be that guy. That's all I'm saying. And ladies, it would be the same thing for you, because even though I've got a strict, stringent rule about not hitting women, when you are coming to me as someone who's pretending to have authority, and you want to throw this in my face and make demands of me as to who my family members are, it's good night, Alice. I'll see you when you get out of the hospital 3 months from now. I'm not telling you people out there, you fine, lovely, beautiful people out there, to hit the CRA. I'm just telling you what I would do. That's it. I take full responsibility for what I say. So the CRA can take that as a warning. They can take it as an anecdote. They can take it any which way they want. It would be unwise for them to ask me that question. And I personally would have a lot more respect for men who would react the same way to anybody asking questions about their wives. We have a duty to our family, guys. Adhere to it. Getting back to this ridiculous document. Okay. This is one I hate. 1066, obtaining information or documents from financial institutions. Authorization to obtain banking information. What is a bank authorization? A bank authorization is a letter signed by the taxpayer or contributing member of the household authorizing a financial institution to release the information to the auditor. Now, how many of you willingly signed a contract with you or with your bank stating that, yeah, sure, you can give my information to whoever you want? Did any of you willingly do that? Was that informed consent if you signed a banking agreement? All right. If they don't have that, let's read on. A bank authorization is not a formal requirement to provide the information, nor is there a legal obligation to do so. Well, I disagree, but we're going to continue on here. Purpose for obtaining an authorization. The purpose of the bank authorization is to give the CRA a tool to ask the financial institution for missing banking information or to verify, confirm, and locate banking information such as account balances, loan accounts, RRSP balances, mortgages, credit card statements, in addition to the existence of safety deposit boxes. That's why you should never have one of those. Bank authorizations can be used to deal with chartered banks, trust companies, credit unions, for example, Caisse Desjardins, other lending institutions, and investment companies. That's why you got to keep your mouth shut. You're not going to talk to the CRA. By signing the bank authorization, the taxpayer contributing member of the household authorizes the financial institution to charge their account for the administration fees to provide the requested information. So if you sign this document, the bank is going to charge fees to the CRA, but you pay them. You just signed your own death warrant. It is not the CRA's policy to absorb the expense if the taxpayer contributing member of the household refuses to pay the administration fees. So the bank will just take them from you. Holy smoke. So imagine this. The CRA wants you, they'll go to your house and say, hey, sign this letter so we can see what's in your bank account. By the way, you're paying for this. Wow. You guys got to hire me, man. Each financial institution or branch needs its own authorization. For joint accounts, all account holders must sign. That's why joint accounts are actually good. And the more names you have on joint accounts, the better. Oh, by the way, you need to set up your accounts that everybody must be present to withdraw. That has to be in that or you're screwed. During the initial interview, when to use a bank authorization. For small and medium business audits, where IVI has not been mandated by business intelligence and where the auditor has not identified any risk, the request for a bank authorization and a customer profile are not mandatory. As well, the supporting IVI tests, including the bank deposit analysis, are not mandatory in this situation. Okay, that one doesn't really say an awful lot. If the taxpayer and the contributing members of the household have kept and provided all banking information, it is still mandatory to include a customer profile for the taxpayer and every contributing member of the household from each financial institution that holds any financial instrument of a taxpayer or contributing member of the household. At a minimum, this will provide negative confirmation. Oh my God, here's the example. A corporation has two bank accounts with Bank A. The sole shareholder has accounts only at Bank B, and the shareholder's spouse does their banking at Bank C. There are no contributing members in the household. A customer profile from Bank A should be obtained for the corporation. Customer profiles for both spouses should be obtained from Bank B and both spouses from Bank C. That's why you do not cooperate, because now they know where you bank, and now they're just going to keep at it until they get your money. Wow. Some financial institutions have indicated that a request for bank information can be processed more efficiently if the auditor first requests the taxpayer or contributing member of the household's bank statements and preliminary information, which is know your customer documentation, After reviewing this information, the auditor will request information relating to specific transactions. Now, I never fill out know your customer information. All right, here's the way that this works. I am not doing any investigative work for anyone. If somebody contacts me for tax services or for legal assistance in some way, it is not my job to police them or to do any investigation work. I will not be doing any due diligence on anybody who's paying me to do a job. So I will never fill out a know your customer form. Not my job, because I'm not agreeing to those terms and conditions. If the bank wants that from me, they can pay me for my time, which they won't. So they're not getting it. The majority of larger financial institutions now have designated locations called third-party demands group, where all requirements are served and processed. Consequently, these financial institutions may no longer provide customer information, including the customer profile, at their local branches. In these situations, the auditors should serve the requirement to the designated branch as indicated at the collections and verifications branch. If no branch is designated, or if the auditor believes that not all information from a local branch was forthcoming in a previous requirement to a designated branch, serve the requirement on the branch of the account. What's being said here is that the banks are supposed to try to make it a little difficult for the auditor to get this information, but they cave in right away. So the auditor really has been given a false sense of power here, in that they actually should acquire a court order to get any of this. So the banks have just taken the right away from their own branches to cooperate with the CRA and just moved it to their head offices. That's why the branches say, well, it's not my fault. You got to blame head office. All right. Let's see here. Some branches of larger financial institutions in smaller communities and local institutions, such as credit unions, for example, Casey Desjardins, may still provide directly at their branch information such as the customer profile and access to the branch manager's file, and sometimes other account information. If the taxpayer's branch of account agrees to provide such information, the auditor can use the bank authorization form as a tool to be presented directly at the branch. However, if the branch refuses to provide the information and offers to transfer the bank authorization form to the designated branch for processing, the auditor should use a requirement served to the designated branch and not give the bank authorization to the branch of the account. Essentially, this clause right here has just blown wide open everything that I have said about the term requirement to pay. So the Canada Revenue Agency has a secret code to the banks, requirement to pay, which they will send to one of the head offices of your bank. And that's when those banks just give your money to the CRA without a court order, which they legally have to have. Okay, just checking a couple things here. All right. Visiting the financial institution, delivery of a bank authorization. Visiting the financial institution to obtain financial information is limited to circumstances where the taxpayer's branch of account allows that such information can be provided directly to the auditor. All right. The initial contact. So they're supposed to contact the branch manager, who may refer you to someone else, sometimes an assistant manager. Try to deal with the same person for all subsequent contacts. Choose a mutually convenient time for the visit. So look at all this time that an auditor is using and wasting our time. We're in the private sector, not public. So our time is not being paid for while they're doing all of this. And the bank is not getting paid for this either. And the CRA has already said that they will be charged for all of this, but they're not going to pay it. Wow, man. Something wrong with our country there. Alrighty. I'm going to move down to a couple other quick things here, because there was something. Safety deposit boxes. If the taxpayer has a safety deposit box, the sign-in card must always be included in the list of documents that the auditor needs to examine. Frequent access noted on the sign-in card may indicate unreported income. If you have a safety deposit box in a bank, get your head examined. Get your stuff out of that box And if you need to, build a false concrete wall in your house and hide everything there in a fireproof bag. Your safety deposit box is not safe from the CRA. So you're paying for what exactly? You're paying to have someone give away your stuff. The meaning of frequent access will vary depending on the taxpayer's explanations, which you're not going to give because you're going to remain silent, and the nature of their business, which you're not going to tell them. If in the auditor's and team's judgment there's been frequent access, an immediate viewing of the contents of the safety deposit box should be arranged. And the bank will do this. Even though there won't be a court order, the bank will cooperate because they're cowards. Immediate viewing ensures that the individual does not remove information or documents that support unreported income. But that's where the CRA guy can say, you know what? There's a ring. We're going to put that over here. There's some cash. I'll put that here. They'll steal. They'll steal. The CRA will steal from you. The auditor and a team leader must attend a viewing of the contents of a safety deposit box together so they can steal together. They're going to steal. Information or documents in the safety deposit box may need to be scanned. So they're actually going to touch your personal property. They're going to put their greasy fingerprints, their dirty, filthy, god-awful soul on what's yours, which is supposed to be safe. That's a breach of trust. So I'd be suing the bank for that. I mean, I've got a very lovely ring that my grandmother gave to me. It's beautiful. It's not worth much, but it's beautiful and it means something to me. And if a CRA representative put his hands on it, just touched it, there's a lot of things that I would do at that particular point to make him regret that decision. I think a lot of you feel the same way that I do on this subject. I really do. This is our stuff. These are our personal effects. Why is it that some loser who works for some loser Nazi institution, they think that they could touch our stuff without consequences? That's what they think. Because the book here says that they should do this, but not that they legally can do this. And because the book says they should do this, they will. Okay. A will included in the contents of the safety deposit box should not be examined or read under any circumstances. They will. Who's going to stop them? Who's going to stop them? You're going to love this one, everybody. And this is why you cannot hire accountants. You have to hire me, because I'm not a licensed accountant. That's the best part of it. I am being paid by you to be your representative. You have client lawyer privilege or client solicitor privilege. Even if they subpoena me to talk about you in court, first off, I'm probably not going to show up. But if I feel like doing so, I'm going to say, I've been retained by my client. Your Honor, I'd like to step down now. Thank you. 10.6.7, obtaining information or documents from accountants. An important audit step is to use the accountant's working papers to reconcile financial statements and adjusting entries to the tax file returns filed. Accountants' working papers, correcting or adjusting entries, and supporting vouchers for financial statements relate to a taxpayer's books and records and are necessary to complete the audit. The accountants may be asked for other information necessary to complete the audit, such as information in connection with an audit or review engagement and advice papers. You know what that means? Every email that you and your accountant send back and forth, they're going to want to see, and the accountant's going to give it to them because they're cowards. The accountant's not going to say, I'm busy. Get out of my office now. That's the correct response. You know, I bark at people. Like, I'm really adamant about barking at people. If I'm on the phone talking to a client, or worse, talking to my kids, and you're calling my name, I'll give you a couple of warnings. Like, I'll try my best to be polite. But the third time, you'll see my face change. And I'm going to become a monster. And I'll just hold the microphone back, and I'm going to tell you every profane thing I need to do. And if I need to like take a run at you, I will. So don't think that you are important when I'm dealing with someone who's paying you to do a job for them. You know, this auditor is not important to me. Or I had a case, actually, a con artist flew to this country here to try to con us out of our money. And we caught her doing it. And we called the cops, and the police are dealing with it now. And this individual was following me around because this individual wanted me to loan her some cash and kept saying, Kevin, Kevin, Kevin. And I just shut up. I'm on the phone with my accountant. You're going to be quiet right now. Well, if you don't start treating me better, I'm going to leave. No one's stopping you. I am not going to make anyone follow me anywhere. You're in a foreign country, in a foreign town. You're on my time. You do it my way. You've got to be a monster these days. And this particular individual didn't like it, but she followed me like a puppy dog because she knew I was right. She knew I was just going to leave her there. And I will leave anyone there. And all of you out there have got to start reacting the same way that I do to people who are irritating and stopping you from your goals. And in business, your goal is to make money and protect your trade secrets. So be rude, be crass if you need to, be loud, change the facial expression and be ready to cause problems. This is what we need to do. It's our stuff. It's not their stuff. This business that I have, this is my business. Nobody is going to learn my secrets unless they pay me for the company. And I'm going to value it very, very, very expensively. Then you can sit with me and I'll spend days with you because if it's the figure that I want, I don't mind hanging around for a week to train you in what I know. So all of you, treat your companies this way. Defend them as if they are your children because this is what you've built, not them. So your accountants will cooperate. I'm telling you right now. And let's just say, for argument's sake, the CRA decides to sue you. They can subpoena your accountant to testify against you, and your accountant probably will. Your accountant is not going to have the balls to say, I'm not feeling very good. I'm not comfortable with this. I have only known this gentleman for one day. We've had 2 conversations. I don't know anything about him. I'd like to be excused. They won't do that. They'll cave in. Oh, yeah, I did his taxes for him, and he asked me 17 times how to save money on taxes. And I told him I don't want to do this. They'll throw you under the bus. So throw your accountant under the bus. If your accountant doesn't say to you, hey, I've looked at your taxes very quickly here, and I can get you down to less than $5,000 for tax. If he's not saying something like that, then get rid of him. I'm reading emails from accountants all the time that are going to my clients, and they're saying things like, well, yeah, you got to pay more taxes. Well, you're the wrong choice for me, don't you think? That's somebody who would probably call the CRA to get you audited because they're cowards. They want to protect their own livelihood. They're not doing anything other than taking your money and giving you nothing in return. And Kent, I know you know how that feels. I wanted to point out something else here because instead of me griping and moaning now, there is one specific thing in this document that we read. And I was floored. But my mind opened up to the ridiculousness of Canada and the ridiculousness of the Canada Revenue Agency. So this is going to be an interesting opportunity if anybody wants to hear what I've got to say now. The CRA actually has a clause in this. It's like an instruction manual for their staff. And it says that if a company in Canada that you're auditing has their records outside of Canada, because some companies are smart and they move their stuff to the United States or Mexico or here in Panama or Grenada or wherever it might be. So you could actually say something like, you know, my records are in, pick one randomly, throw a dart at a globe. Oh, Nicaragua. And the CRA is going to say to you, well, we'd like to go to Nicaragua and have a look at your books. You can tell them, enjoy yourself, go by. Well, where is it being held in Nicaragua? Well, I'm not answering any questions without my lawyer present. The CRA will also tell you, let's just say you told the truth and said, oh, yes, it's in a warehouse on 19th Street, downtown San Salvador, in El Salvador. What if you told them where it is? If they decide they want to fly there to look at your books, first they need your permission, and then they need your authorization to have you pay for them to go. That's actually in this stupid book. So congratulations, you're off the hook. If you store your records in the USA or any other country, or even on a native reserve in Canada, which has been designated properly, then you just tell them the records are not in Canada. And they'll ask you, where are they? I don't answer questions. Or lie. Medellin in Colombia. Rio de Janeiro, where all the big butts are. You can tell them whatever you want. And they'll say, well, we'd like you to flip the bill for us to fly down there and look at your records. Well, I'm going to decline that because I'm not obligated to pay anyone's way. And I'm not paying anyone's way. And why would any of you? I'm sure that some people out there will fall for this nonsense, but I'm encouraging all of you to understand that you do not have to cooperate with the Canada Revenue Agency in any way whatsoever. You just have to answer their stupid letters in a fashion that buys you as much time as possible. So you'll always find that when the CRA wants something from you, they will state that we want you to pay this bill. Our records show that you owe $50,000. You either must pay it or respond to this letter within 14 days. So we respond to the letter. And in that letter, I will write for you. I'm going to tell them that we do not owe taxes. But if you say that we do, we are demanding evidence of that. And you are to provide that evidence before you make any further contact. Then we send off more letters, like we send them threats. Then the next day, I will phone that particular officer and give them a tough time. I'll grill them. I'll start asking questions. You guys have heard me talking to people. Well, what was that woman's name? Oh, hold on. It was Dick Shitta. Yeah. That's her name. Literally, that's her name. Yeah, it's an Indian woman named Dick Shitta Madri. Oh, I can't remember her last name. But I questioned her for 25 minutes and she just kept answering all my questions. So that's exactly what I'm going to do is just grill them. Why don't you find people watching this now? Grill them. I would recommend highly that you don't talk to the CRA, but start asking questions. What's your name? How tall are you? What's your waist size? What's your chest size? Do you work out? Oh, you do. What gym do you go to? I'd like to come meet you in person. I wouldn't mind doing a couple sets with you. What do you bench press? How far can you jog before you got to take a break? Just keep asking them questions. You have a dog? Oh, I love dogs. What's your dog's name? Oh, what kind of dog is it? Really? Oh, well, is the dog trained? Can the dog do flips? Do you have a cat? Oh, really? What's the cat's name? Just keep asking them questions. Now, thank you, Scorpio, for asking the question here of, do you have advice on buying land in Panama? First off, yeah, get it now while it's hot, because the government here has now authorized the rest of the projects out there that are currently being built to expand further. They're building new airports all over this country. This country, Panama, look at how tiny it is compared to Canada. I think Panama might be the distance from, let's say, Niagara Falls to Quebec City. It's really not that big. But it's going to have more airports than Canada this year. I can tell you that right now. It's got the Panama Canal. It's got that big airport, PTY, which is more modern than Toronto. It's got a better subway system than any Canadian city does. It's got better busing than any Canadian city does. It's got a new 4-lane highway that's being built all the way out to Costa Rican's border. There's going to be a monorail that stretches 24 kilometers west of the city, and that's already been okayed to expand further. The university, Florida State University, has a massive campus by the first lock on the canal, and there's a new subway line going to the university. And the university has not one single solitary pride flag on it, not a one. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So urban sprawl will eventually happen here. Yes, it will. I would buy land as quickly as you possibly can here in Panama. Knowing what we know about the Canada Revenue Agency and the Canadian banks, that fiasco with the truckers' convoy, where the truckers were absolutely within their rights, when Trudeau shut down their bank accounts to terrify every other Canadian out there, that's when foreign investors realized Canada is a stupid place to invest. They pulled their money. So when millionaires pull their money, you should do what millionaires do. They're millionaires for a reason, because they know what's up. Get your money here to Panama. I can help you open up your bank account. It's 950 Canadian bucks. That's it to get a bank account open down here. And they'll do it within a week. Well, I think it's only 4 or 5 days. And they'll do it remote. You have to do a Zoom call with the bank manager. That's passport, second piece of ID, a letter from your bank saying that you exist, and one of your tax returns, regardless of how good or bad the tax year was for you. That's all you need. and I will walk into the bank for you, present all the information. They will contact you. I'll sit with the manager, say, hey, John, Steve, Mike, Susan, whoever, good to meet you. And this lady here is going to have your bank account open in a couple of hours. Now, they're not fast here. So where it takes half an hour to open an account in Canada, it takes about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours here. But so be it. We want here, I've been talking to a couple land developers. We want to build warehousing here in Panama. We want to build warehousing for Canadians to ship all of their records here so that all of your records are outside of the jurisdiction of the Canadian government. That's what we're looking for. We're also going to have not necessarily cloud storage here, because cloud's kind of crazy, but direct intranet access here. Okay, so that would be a private server where you can upload your records to that server here in Panama, that if for whatever the reason you made a phone call to us or you texted to a certain number, a certain password, that the entire server would get frozen. Right. So the CRA can't get in. And if they try to get in, then we would go to the Panamanian government here and say, there's a Canadian government agency trying to hack our servers here in Panama. It'd be an international incident. They would go straight to the Canadian consulate and say, what's going on? All right. What's going on? Because I've already met the mayors of 3 cities in this country, and I've explained just how communist Canada really is. All right. There we go. And they're not happy with it. So they're expecting a huge influx of Canadians coming soon. And it's going to happen soon. So if any of you are interested in investing in this program, having physical storage for files where you can have them all scanned in and they'll be held here in Panama. If you want to invest in this business, I'm willing to bet that we could have 10,000 Canadians within 1 year transferring all of their stuff down here. It's actually quite easy to get that stuff onto a small boat in Vancouver and just brought to the south end of the canal, and we'll store it here in Panama City or just north of it, maybe Panama Pacifico or otherwise. And it's not like we're going to tell the Canadian government where our warehouse is. We will open a Panamanian corporation down here specifically and only as a holding company for that building. And if the CRA or any judge in Canada says, Kevin, you have to, no, I don't, because you have no jurisdiction here in Panama. That's what we're after, the one. So let's take advantage of the fact that the Panamanian government wants to turn Panama into a G20 country. And it's going to get there, man. The amount of money down here is absolutely unbelievable. The amount of money in Canada is null and void. It's gone. It's been given to all the foreign countries around the world that don't deserve it, and we got nothing in return for it. How could we possibly, as a nation, go into debt $1.48 trillion and not have a single solitary new highway, airport, or train track built? Not one. It's possible when all that money is being printed at the leisure and behest of our government to be given away to all their friends around the world. That's what happened in Canada. When the banks lose their charter next year on June 30th, you're going to find that Canadians are in a great deal of dire straits, everyone. It's not a good scene. Get a hold of me for any and all tax needs, everybody. That's the best thing that all of us can do here. I'm never going to cooperate with the CRA, and I'm never going to do what a judge tells me to do in Canada. I am not in Canada. The odds of me going back to Canada anytime soon are about zero. I am not interested in that place anymore. It is a hellhole. It's a painful place to be emotionally and mentally and absolutely fiscally. You can't make money in a society where your own government has decided to go to war with we the people, which it's done. And now the CRA is taking absolutely everything away from us, and we cannot let them do it. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, probably also going to be called the Tax Show as well, which is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll always be able to see the show live on TikTok here and, of course, on freedomreport.ca. And don't forget, the Kevin J. Johnston Show, the political show, is absolutely every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, also here on TikTok and right here on freedomreport.ca. If you want your tax problems solved, get a hold of me right here at kevinjjohnston.com and book your consultation. We will see you soon. Have a great night. everybody, Kevin J. Johnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, which is every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Episode 34, Exit Tax and Snitch Lines. We need to talk about what's going on with the Canada Revenue Agency because we know that some of what the Canada Revenue Agency is doing to everybody in Canada is also now being done to Americans due to the IRS. And these are just not good things. I need to make an announcement, however, tonight. I'm sure some of you have heard the names Robert Menard and what's the other guy? A Warrior Calls, Christopher James. Well, these two gentlemen profess to be experts in the free man on the land movement. Now, in principle, I would have to say that I kind of agree with it. I don't like the idea of being subject to laws that I never agreed to be governed by. And I certainly don't want to be governed by the left-wing nuts that run the courts and run the government in Canada. However, if I stand like this and I say something like, I'm not going to pay tax because tax is illegal to charge. Well, maybe it is. But do you think that professing that to nobody is going to win that case? You haven't even presented a case at this particular point. The reason I bring this up is I do a lot of work with veterans and I do a lot of work with the elderly, people that just can't afford to get their taxes done. However, when people take the advice from Christopher James and Robert Menard, especially to do with taxes and law, what happens? They lose all of the time. I just had a conversation with a gentleman this evening. I'm not going to give you his name. And yes, I had to record it because I had a feeling it was going to get out of hand, and it did. But the individual had contacted me telling me that he says taxes are illegal and that no human being in Canada has to do a tax return. Well, I did tell him that a tax return is not going to get you into prison if you don't do one, but it's in your best interest just to do one after you speak to a professional like me, because that way, when the government, the losers who work for the Canadian government, have their silly little pieces of paper, they close your file and they leave you alone. You know, sometimes we all just have to kind of suck it up a little bit. Like, don't be so pride-filled in matters in which you have absolutely no control and you have no army to fight. Sometimes you just got to do it. I despise the Canada Revenue Agency in absolutely every way, but the Canada Revenue Agency makes it very easy to defeat them because it doesn't matter what I've got a problem with, there's a form for that. And if I fill it out and submit it and then make a phone call to say, I submitted your form, well, guess what happens? They say, oh, well, now the onus is on us to do whatever you're telling us to do in that form. It's that simple. If you want to get the CRA off your back, then you come to me and I'll fill out an objection to your taxes, which will get you an appeal date anywhere between 6 months and a year and a half down the road. And then we're going to demand disclosure. They're not going to give it to us, and we're going to win based on no disclosure. We're playing in their sandbox. We are, unless you're going to go to the CRA office fully armed with an army of 1,000 men fully armed and take them down, and then obviously put up with getting shot at by the cops who invariably are going to show up and so on. Unless you're going to do that, which you're not, you know, there is no way for you to make a profession that taxes are illegal and I'm not going to do them. The individual in question ended up getting assessed for $60,000 in tax debt, and they are now taking 1/3 of his pension every single month, and he's not going to be able to survive in doing so. Here's the problem. He hires me and then tells me that because what we found, because he wouldn't tell me the truth, the numbers that we found matched up to what the CRA said that he owed. So we had to tell him, we need to take a different approach to this. And unfortunately, what the individual said is that because our numbers match the CRA's exactly, that we are his enemy as well. And then he wanted to go ahead and shout into the phone for about almost 10 minutes about the fact that taxes are completely illegal, and he doesn't even have to tell me what his tax numbers are. Well, if you're hiring me to do your taxes for you, you do kind of have to share that with me. You're under no obligation to tell me anything. You can hire me and then say, I don't want to work with you anymore. That's okay. But if you want me to actually do your taxes and come up with different numbers than what the CRA has, then you got to tell me what your numbers are. And if you want to stand there and proudly profess that the CRA has no power over you and that you're a free man on the land and you drive a car without a driver's license and you just move into abandoned houses and you write little letters off to the city and so on, you're going to do prison time. They're going to lock you up for it. I agree that the driver's license is complete nonsense. But if I have one and I get pulled over, the conversation with the cop that I really don't want to have ends really quickly and I can carry on. If I don't have one and I want to start reading out all the tripe that the free man on the land movement wants to throw at the police, which they do, I'm going to get arrested. I'm going to have to make bail. I'm going to have a court date at some point. And that ticket, which would have been just a ticket that I could have fought in court as a free man, a true free man, I have to now fight not only the traffic ticket, but the criminal charge that goes along with it, which of course I still disagree with, but why put ourselves through it? So when you hire me, Kevin J. Johnston, to do your taxes for you, well, cooperate with me. I'm not your enemy. I'm your friend. I'm the one who's helping you. So I have to address them right now. To Christopher James and to Robert Menard of the Free Man on the Land movement and A Warrior Calls, or whatever you call your movements, you are destroying lives with the information that you're giving to people. You're absolutely ruining people's lives. The worst example that I can give is that a mentally ill man came to Christopher James and listened to all the nonsense about the fact that you just have to send a letter off to the banks saying that mortgages are illegal and I'm not going to pay them. And that's exactly what he did. And what did the bank do? They foreclosed on the property. And what did this guy do? Well, he, I guess, was embarrassed and he decided to abandon his wife and 4 children. And I had to negotiate with the bank to allow them to stay an extra 60 days so that they could get everything sold off that they had, everything packed up, and move from the east of Ontario all the way to the west, like an 8-hour distance that they had to go because the husband listened to Christopher James and all that free man garbage. If you are going to tell the bank that it's illegal for them to charge interest on a loan that you applied for, they're going to take your house. People who have slight mental deficiencies tend to gravitate towards Robert Menard and towards Christopher James. And you all want to believe in your fantasies of fantasies that there is some type of magical wand you can wave and never pay tax again. It's not how it works. And there's no magical wand you can wave and get a free house. And there's no magical fairy dust you can sprinkle and get rid of a mortgage in a day because you say so. That is just not real. That is not how it works at all. If you want to state that you disagree fundamentally with the CRA, then you're on your own. You're on your own if you're not going to cooperate with me. When you hire me, you do have to cooperate with me or I can't help you. You're going to have as much luck telling the planet that you find gravity offensive and that gravity has no right to pull you towards the center of the earth. And then you're going to test that by jumping off of a building. And should you survive the fall, who are you going to blame? The earth? The force of gravity? Come on, everyone. I need you to stay away from the free man on the land movement. I can absolutely obliterate your tax bill. And I mean obliterate it. But I have to use the law to do it. I have to work within the confines of what would be considered fraud law. Why? Because if I'm doing overtly fraudulent things and a nationwide police investigation opens up on me, then they're going to contact Interpol and I can't go to 13 different countries in the Caribbean Union. So I work within the confines of the law. We will find every write-off that you are legally allowed to have. We are going to find every expense that you're legally allowed to claim. And we're going to eliminate every single earning that we are legally allowed to do. And believe me, there are so many laws in your favor in Canada for taxes that whatever it is that I do is going to work the first time that we do it. I need you all to stay away from the free man on the land movement. There's so many of my clients have come to me. It's too late in some cases. I can't save their houses, but at least I can save them their tax dollars. But don't go to war with the CRA or the government by stating that I am a free man, I am a sovereign citizen, and your laws don't apply, and I'm not going to cooperate. They're going to turn right around and just take your stuff. It's illegal what they do, but they're still going to do it. So you are correct, IT74. There is no way to fix Canada currently. And the reason I do the income tax show, the money and tax show that I do now,